time to start the meeting, please. Ed, would
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get started, I was questioned on the way that I allow people to speak, because we have a policy. And I was told that, I should be following our policy. But the way I feel about people, I believe in the freedom of speech. Okay? This is our policy. Now I'll read it to you. You get copies of it, it's, BEDH. What they allow, on a certain subject, so we state in our policy that we spend 15 minutes on that, okay? The thing is, that period can be extended by the majority vote of the board, right? That's number one. Number two, individual speakers will be allotted 3 minutes per person. I like to let people speak longer, and I leave that up to the board also. That's in our policy. For specific meetings and or specific agenda items, the board may, at the outset of the public comment period, increase the individual time limit for all the speakers. The board has the authority to change this at the meeting, anytime they want, okay? The chair will recognize the speakers. I know when you come up to speak, I ask that you give your name, that's clear, so they record it, okay? I'll do public comments, but also after that, we have the exploratory committee, and all this is gonna give us information, okay? Now, other than that, that's all it is information at this point. There's no decision gonna be made here at this time. It'll be done at a later date. What'll happen, more than likely, that wouldn't be up to the board. That would be up to you as voters to make that decision, not the board. Okay? It'll be put on a warrant. So they're gonna do here, information only. That's all they're giving us. They don't wanna, should be any debate. If you wanna talk on a subject, you come up here, talk directly to me. Okay, I don't want you to make it personal. You can throw everything, eggs, tomatoes at me, nobody else. Okay? Now, do I have any public comments before I go to the exploratory committee? Oh, we can do that too.
We follow the agenda?
Yes, okay. Sorry. Wednesday, June 23rd, public hearing.
I will make a motion to approve the June 23rd public hearing minutes, with one correction on page 2. Underneath the public notice in the grant, the second dark bullet down there, it should be grant, not Gant. So just add an R, please.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Alyssa, thank you. Anybody else have any corrections? Peg?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
I will make a motion to approve the, Wednesday, June 23rd, non-public meeting minutes with one minor correction. Public in attendance, Jerry Keisman is with a J, not a G.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Alyssa? Anybody else have any corrections? Peg?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Wednesday, the 16th, public hearing?
I will make a motion to approve the 16th of June public with several grammatical corrections. On page 1, down at the bottom, that last paragraph, deleted a duplicate of raising expectations usually. And then at the bottom of the page, changing whatever that word was, to myriad, MYRIAD. On page 3, under, oh, I know, it was when we were, interviewing. Under Timothy, added the word clean, to keep the facilities clean, not just keep the facilities. I said, minor. And then on page 5, halfway down, if you could talk a little bit more about how you're going to handle business handling. And on page 6, grammatical change from is to are, and then refrain to refer.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll second it then.
Emma?
Oh, sorry. Peg?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Okay, 19th,
I'll make a motion to
non-public.
approve May 19th, non-public meeting minutes, no corrections.
Do I have a second?
Second.
With that,
Melissa?
anybody else, any corrections? Peg?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
It's usually me that's going, who said that?
What? All right. Okay, I'm gonna ask the board their permission. If people go longer than 3 minutes, can I let them speak?
I think 3 minutes is adequate amount of time. But that's just my personal opinion.
Do I have a vote or what? It's not up to me. It's politics.
I would think maybe 3 minutes, like person A, and then if, 10 people speak, all at 3 minutes, and then if person A still has something they need to say, we can recognize them again.
Yeah, I have no problem with that,
Or we
politics.
can cut it off, I don't know.
Okay, all right. Do I have any public comments? Guess that's gonna go. Okay, exploratory committee. Abigail? You have the floor.
Super loud, so.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to, cover one thing really quick before they give their update on the committee. There were a lot of questions about where the exploration committee came from, so I just wanted to, read the, warrant articles from, years out. The warrant articles 13 states to see if the voters of the Milton School District shall direct the Milton School Board to enter into talks with neighboring school districts to determine the feasibility of an area agreement according to RSA 195A for the purpose of sending our high school and middle school students out of district. That was passed by the town. We formed an exploration committee that has been doing research and gathering information. I, as a board member, I do sit on the committee. We also have administration and staff from the school. We have residents of the town, some that have kids in the school, some, former parents, current parents, non-parents, people who homeschool, people with education backgrounds, business backgrounds. It's been a really good cross-section of people, and we're working really hard to gather this information. We're not making any decisions. We're still, again, it's an exploratory committee, but they've been working really hard, and they've got some really good information that they're going to share tonight. So I'm just going to get out of their way and let them do their thing.
Where would you like me to stand?
If you want people to look at them, you can come right up there.
Just a little more information. Okay.
We're looking at your back.
Hi all, my name is Heather Minna, and I am a Milton resident, and I have a little one going into kindergarten this year. So I'm just going to give an update on the facility analysis that was provided to me. I think it's good information to start off with. So the most recent facility analysis was completed in 2015, so about 6 years ago. The intent of the analysis on the buildings in Milton was to evaluate the condition of the existing building and systems and to identify necessary upgrades as required by current applicable codes and standards to reuse the existing facility. Please note, more than likely the costs indicated on this analysis have increased due to the amount of time that has passed and the general uptick in labor and materials. So some portions of concern that the analysis outlines included the gym storage. So the single-story structure was listed as poor condition, and the recommendation was to demolish the structure as the reinforcement would cost more. The analysis showed that the electrical branch panels are a mixture of manufacturers, and the panels in the 1959 edition of the building are 55 years old, which is much beyond their expected useful life. So the recommendation was to replace the system entirely. A few other recommendations the analysis outlined include replacement of the exterior stairs at the original building, the windows to be removed and replaced with new aluminum exterior double-hung windows, the excavation of exterior walls down to 4 feet to add insulation, and the replacement of the 1890 and 1959 plumbing fixtures to make them handicap accessible and meet ADA requirements. So the analysis determined that there was up to $3,334,300 worth of work that needed to be completed to the high school. As a reminder, again, this was completed 6 years ago, so might be off as of now. But the analysis also showed that up to $294,000 worth of updates were needed for the middle school. So I know later on, Sally will be sharing some additional information. Just note that the building costs are not included in the tuition costs for the Milton students. So this is completely separate from that. But other than that, my section was quick, so I'm all done. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alicia Slattery. I'm going to be giving you the sports and clubs for each school that we researched. We've reached out and got answers back from 5 different school districts. Prospect Mountain High School, which is a mixture of Alton and Barnstead, Dover, Farmington, Rochester, and Somersworth. I'm going to start out with the sports and clubs for Prospect Mountain High School. PMHS annually offers 15 to 20 activities outside of athletics. Process of personalizing starting clubs according to student interest. Faculty interest in expanding offers, and the gauge to interest among Milton Board family students to add if they were to come there. They have about 24 different clubs, 9 different traditions, 15 sports, which you guys have this in your packet as well, yes? The extracurricular activities.
No.
Did we not do that? Okay, so just some examples for like the clubs, because I don't think you guys want me to name out all these clubs and sports, because with each school it will get daunting naming those all. But with Prospect Mountain, some examples would be acting club, FBLA, environment club, US First Robotics, World Language Club, National Honor Society, and then they have a lot of performing arts clubs as well, with drama club, including musical productions, with a stage theater that seats 800 people. Traditions, talent shows, Winter Carnival, Fall Festival, Schoolwide Quiz Bowl, Prospect United Games, food drives, etc. One of the different sports that they have that is interesting that you don't see a lot in a lot of schools like us would be bass fishing. One other school on here has that. I thought that was interesting. Alpine skiing, basketball, indoor track, cross country, track and field, baseball, softball, tennis, volleyball, indoor swimming, golf, etc. And then they also do have equestrian, and for unified, soccer, volleyball, basketball, track and field. For Dover, they have 32 different clubs. Some of their more interesting ones would be some language clubs that they have, like Latin Club, Photography Club, Red Cross Club. They also have robotics, Granite State Challenge, and 5 different musical clubs. They have 10 different traditions, and they have 20 different sports, some of the different ones being gymnastics, bowling, field hockey, and then they have soccer, basketball, and volleyball for unified. For Farmington, they have 8 different high school clubs, 5 middle school clubs, 9 high school traditions, 3 middle school traditions, 9 different sports, and for unified, they have basketball. Stuff like winter carnival, spring fling, senior banquet, stuff like that. So for Milton, I'm only showing 1 middle school club, 13 high school clubs, 4 middle school traditions, 7 high school traditions, and 6 different sports. No unified. For Rochester, we have 12 different middle school clubs, 11 middle school traditions, 9 high school clubs, and 15 high school traditions, 20 sports, and I believe, Rochester was the other one that had bass fishing, which, again, I thought interesting.
What's it called?
Bass fishing, like,
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm trying to make, like that.
I just have a son
Yeah,
that's like obsessed with fishing, so I thought it interesting that a school would have a bass fishing sport, so thought that was neat. They also, for one of the different ones, have wrestling, ice hockey, and then they have, for unified, soccer, basketball, and volleyball. Somersworth has 16 different clubs. They did not give us any information on traditions, and they have 12 different sports, no unified sports. So I'll move on to the estimated tuition costs. Now, I ran 2 different analysis on these. One, so if you go to the comparative analysis, which you guys should have, and I'll do the high school first. So if you go to the comparative analysis, you'll see down there's the DOE high school average cost per pupil for the DOE on the first page. If you go to the last page of the high school analysis, on the very bottom, you'll see the estimated tuition cost that is subject to negotiation. And those came from, whereas Dover and Rochester already have set tuition in, so they already have those costs available to them, so we already know what those other schools pay for tuition. And then Alton gave us an estimated cost as well. So I ran two different analysis, one with the Doe, numbers, and then one with the estimated actual cost. So for the Doe cost on high school, with Alton, the tuition number would be $2,260,818, with a savings to our school of $715,490 to $992,158. For Dover, the tuition cost would be $1,776,726, with an estimated savings of $1.2 million to $1.4 million. Farmington, the tuition cost, $2,562,588, with an estimated savings of $413,000 to $690,000. With Rochester, the tuition cost would be $2,376,000, with an estimated savings of $975,932 to $1.2 million. Farnsworth, the estimated tuition cost for those numbers is $2,436,840, with an estimated savings of $539,000 to $816,000. Now, I'll stay on the high school. For the actual estimated tuition that would be negotiated, say if you went into a contract, the cost would be, or the savings would be, an estimated $1 million to $1.2 million for Alton High School. Dover High School, the estimated savings would be $1.1 million to $1.3 million. Farmington, the estimated savings would be $1.6 million to $1.8 million. And for Rochester, it would be $1.2 million to $1.4 million savings. We did not have the estimated info on that second one for Summersworth, so I don't have an estimated cost for them. Now, if we move on to middle school,
I'm trying to look at pages that you're needing to refer to. I'm not seeing all these numbers or where they came from.
I don't think you have a copy of the cost analysis, just of the tuition, the Doe tuition cost and the estimated tuition cost. So if you take the budget, which, do you guys have the Milton district budget from there, copies of that?
No.
No? Okay.
They're on the internet.
They are on the internet.
It should be here.
So where is, like, when I print the Department of Education numbers off, 2019, 2020, Milton says $20,495, but here it says 22.
That came from Doe.
This came right from the Department of Education printout.
So the way we got those numbers was for, if you look on the last page, it tells you where we got that from, that,
Right, the Department of Education.
Correct.
That's it.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I printed out.
She's saying that her numbers do not match.
Right, Milton here, it says $16,000 for middle school, $20,495 for high school. Huh? Prospect's not on here for some reason, I don't know.
We got all our numbers from Doe, so.
This is New Hampshire Department of Education cost per pupil by district, 2019 to 2020.
You're
Right.
looking at the wrong year.
Yeah.
This is 2020.
So fiscal year,
Yeah.
fiscal year one time. So you're right now, you're in fiscal year 2021.
Yeah.
So it would be for the year 2020,
So there's
2021.
another place to go to
Yeah.
get.
It's the same place,
Yeah.
but you gotta type it in different
So-
states.
These have two numbers for 2 different years, I would think that her numbers would cover. Right. Because this has a number for 2019 and a number for 2020. This was ran December 21st, 2020. So I would think that would be the fiscal year end in 2020. Correct?
Well, I can tell you that when I went to that site and I checked it out with a couple of people also, this is the numbers that we were given. Because on that I-platform,
Yeah.
is that where you went?
Yeah.
I-platform? Yep, because that's where I went also. And then there's another, in that I-platform, it's called I-Explore. And it's a dashboard.
Yeah.
And then you type in the year, and it was only 2 years because of COVID. So you just type in the year, and then it lists all the high schools, and it lists all schools in the state.
And then I'm just kind of confused, like Farmington's cost per school, per pupil is $20,338, but they're gonna let us come there for $11,000?
So when you break down, an estimated tuition cost for other kids to come into your district, you're not staffing an entire school. They're not adding an entire staff for the school. So the costs are not as high when you bring in X amount of students. They don't have to bring on a full staff of teachers, and they might add some staff, but they don't add a full staff. So the cost is not gonna be as high.
Thank you. And then, this 11,000 estimated cost like for Farmington, is that include special ed costs?
No,
So, and I'll get to that in a minute, after I get, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, all right.
But does this figure on the front page include special ed?
That, so,
Like the, for Milton's estimated student cost?
Yeah.
That does, okay.
yes,
and so we just want to make sure that everybody understands how the research got those numbers.
yes.
Is that clear to people?
Well, we'll get to that, we haven't even gotten through that whole part of it yet. I'm just giving you the estimated cost, and I'll tell you how I came to that.
Later, let us know.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to interrupt.
Yep, and then also for the budget and everything, if you go to the SAU64.org page, and you go into the school board, and you go into the budget, and type May, it'll give you the full budget breakdowns for the school, and it breaks them down into where all the costs go as well in each department, if you're curious to look at that.
Do those costs include transportation and food?
No, so when you do a tuition breakdown, even on the DOE, it does not include those costs. Or transportation. It still includes food, doesn't, no, it does not include the food or the transportation. All right, so moving on to middle school. Oh, need this paper back, what do I do with that? So first I'll go through the DOE tuition, and then I'll go into the, estimated cost of tuition, which is lower, because like I said, you don't staff an entire new school when students come over. So really, these first estimates I give you are like the lowest amount of money you would save, because that's like worst case scenario, because that's not the actual cost of a tuition on a contract, right? So Milton, middle school estimated tuition cost. For Alton, I'm gonna wait and refer to Sally, because we have an opportunity to do something really interesting with Alton Middle School, and, she's gonna explain all of that, after I'm done with this. But for Dover, the actual tuition cost is $1,740,836, with the possible savings of $522,408. For Farmington, $2,337,524 estimate, or actual tuition cost. With in the negative we would actually lose money on the middle school portion for Farmington of negative $74,279. Rochester tuition cost would be $1,865,456, with a savings of $397,788. And Summersworth, the tuition cost would be $2,191,204, with a savings of $72,040. Now, with the estimated tuition cost, for Dover, there would be an estimated savings of $384,644. For Farmington, it would be an estimated savings of $600,000 to $800,000. Rochester, an estimated savings of $430,000. So when you do the tuition cost, to get to your number of the actual tuition, you're gonna take that number, say Rochester is gonna charge us $15,050 per student. And you take that number and you times it by the amount of students that we're gonna be sending from the high school to that to get your, tuition cost. And then you're gonna take your budget minus your transportation and, your food costs. Your food costs would actually come back if you sent the kids out. Like, that wouldn't even be in the budget because we wouldn't be providing food. And then you're gonna minus that from your tuition cost for your savings. Now, these costs can fluctuate a little bit with special ed. And because I didn't have the full breakdowns of, what services, what kids that we send out of district, what services they're receiving, I can't give you an exact dollar amount cost, and that's why I say we could save this amount to this amount, because that could fluctuate by $250,000 per high school, per middle school. And then there's also with Altman, Dover, who are a little bit different than the other schools. They include a lot of special ed services in their regular tuition costs. So we actually would save more money with those schools because that's included in the regular cost. Whereas the rest of those other school districts require us to pay 100% of special ed out. So you do get a little more cost savings with those two schools. But again, I can't give you those actual numbers because I don't have the breakdowns. I only have the overall special ed cost and not the breakdowns of how many kids receive what services. I only have a number for, we spend X amount of money on to send kids out of district for special ed, for middle school, high school, but not what services they're receiving and not where they go. So I can't give you an exact dollar amount. So that's why that fluctuates, that number, when I say, $200,000 X amount to this amount. That's why I say that, because we could still be spending that money. So it might be a $250,000 less savings, but still a savings. Does that make sense? Anybody have questions about that?
I have one more question. It might be just backed up a little bit from what you just said, because I didn't study on it. But you said to figure out the cost, you take tuition cost times the number of students who will be going. And then you mentioned that you would take the budget as it stands, and you would subtract out.
You would take out the tuition, or the transportation cost.
Right, subtract out the transportation cost. I'm wondering, did I miss it, and you address the transportation cost to send the students farther away, or was that not addressed at all?
No, we haven't done
That
that
wasn't
part
addressed
yet.
at all. Okay,
No.
but
No, yep,
We'll get it.
yep, we'll get there. It's yes.
I'm under the impression that a receiving district, can charge both a tuition surcharge, and an occupancy
Yes.
surcharge. And that these are on record in cooperative agreements that exist.
They are.
If you ask any of the districts what they plan to do on that basis,
We do ask the districts, and they are in the estimated, they were given back in the estimated cost. So when we received the letters back from those districts, that was one of the specific questions we asked. That way it could be added in to the tuition cost. Because you have your tuition cost, and then you could have a building, cost or a bond cost on top of that if they owe, you know,
and,
on building.
sorry to interrupt, and did any district indicate that they were willing to provide their tuition at a discount? And did you also, try to get a sense of whether or not we're dealing on point to point or point to whether or not Prospect Mountain wishes us to use the Barnstead model and keep K through 8 at home and take only high school, and their tuition is up over $20,000.
So
Did you compute the cost of transfer?
we haven't got there yet, Larry. Okay, we haven't got there. That's all in there. We don't do the negotiations for the tuition cost. If we decide to send our kids to another district, those tuition costs that's all gonna be negotiated by school lawyers. Our school lawyer, their school lawyer. We're not lawyers, we're not in the legal business. That gets done through the people who are qualified to do that. And then, like I said, Sally's gonna do a presentation as far as the Alton Middle School goes, because, there's something a little special and different with that one.
So when you said when you answered Larry, the tuition costs that you're presenting to us already incorporated those building fees if they.
Yes. Yes.
And I actually figured that out because when they responded to us, they gave us, a basic tuition. For example, here is Dover. They have the basic tuition at $13,500. Then on top of that, they put the rental. And so the rental was, $1,650 for that. So that made that the total of $15,150. So that is all included, yes, because we knew that was an important thing, that, they're gonna charge the rent.
We don't want to be any surprises
Yeah.
later, oh, by the way, you got to add this, so that has already been added into that.
So the 15 for Dover, they include that, it doesn't include the transportation or specialist?
So we're going to get to the transportation, because I took transportation out of that budget when I estimated these costs, because it's not part of, the tuition analysis. So that wasn't even incorporated into our numbers. The food cost goes away for us completely, because we're now not providing food. You're in a different school system. So you're either, just like you would here, getting free or reduced lunches, or paying for the lunches as it would be if you were in this school as well. So that just gets removed from the budget completely, after the fact, right? Any other questions about the cost analysis?
Is the removing of the food part included in what you were saying that the savings were?
Well, it would be a savings because,
It wasn't included in what you were speaking of a few minutes ago.
no. Anything else? No? All right, Laura?
Hi, I'm Laura Turgeon, and I'm going to be presenting regarding the special education costs. Right now, we have approximately $309,500 $65.67, not counting, the, costs for the teachers or the aides. So this doesn't count salary. This is, middle high school transportation salary, high school contracted services, which is $27,344.35. High school, special education public tuition is at $39,253. High school special education tuition non-public, $162,399. And then transportation for special education contracted services is another $15,000. We have books, equipment, dues and fees, and travel expenses at another $2,882. For middle school, we have contracted services, and it looks like it got cut off, but it's right around $79,000. The public tuition is and this is I've taken from our 2021 budget of the whole school budget was $11 million. So this was taken from that budget. That's okay. The middle school special education tuition for non-public is $182,000. The middle school books, equipment, dues, conferences, and travel supplies is another $2,200. So the total for middle school was $264,666.85. Now, with sending our kids, if the town chose to do that, some of the different districts include many of the in-house special needs that we are sending all of our kids out for because we don't have the specialties in-house. So occupational therapy, speech therapy, we all pay out of district for. So because we don't have the specialty in-house. Prospect Mountain has all of those services in-house. They have speech, PT, OT, and a life skills program. As long as there are 5 students, and it doesn't mean 5 students from Milton, it means 5 students total in each program, we pay nothing. It's all part of the contracted services and tuition costs. So the only time Milton would pay for special services is if they had to be sent out of district for whatever needs, and if they had a one-on-one para. Then Milton would be responsible for paying for that one-on-one para. The cost for Dover, it's the same. So the services are in-house, speech, OT, PT. Milton would, or there's no cost for students receiving those. Milton would again pay for out-of-district or one-on-one para only. For Farmington, we would actually pay for actual costs for services, just like we're doing now. We would pay the transportation, we would pay, the out-of-pocket costs for them to be out of, district to OT, PT, speech. For the Rochester School District, the charge again would be for the individual services, whether it be OT, PT, speech, and of course the paras as well. There could be a cost savings. I think the biggest savings is our special needs kids not being bussed around to different communities for services, if we chose. Yes.
You're making it sound like we have to send students who require things like OT, PT, speech out of the building, which is incorrect. We contract service providers who are here with those students in Milton. We contract because it's cheaper than hiring them.
I'd like to know who make those decisions whether a child would receive services in the school or outside of the school. Would it be the receiving district?
So we would still maintain a special ed director. We would still have our own special ed director that makes decisions for the students of Milton and what services they receive.
Well, that's not how it is now, okay? You have a team meeting, and then the team makes a decision, okay? that team you're saying, we would have, say, Mr. Clark, and then a team would be from the school, whatever the receiving school it's from. So they would have the final decision whether or not our child is sent out.
No.
No. Mr. Clark would?
I would be
Mr.
the
Flowers.
other, I would,
Okay. So then Mr. Clark would decide for every child whether or not, you know, Milton's gonna pay an additional $50,000 a year. It'd be on your head, right?
my job.
Okay,
That's up to the IUP team.
right.
That's not up to any district.
So my son, who is special needs, who is a handful in the classroom, and I sent him to an out-of-district class. They don't want to stop my kid being a little shithead, okay? You know what, we're gonna send him out, it's not costing us anything, it's costing Milton. And if you don't think that's gonna happen, then just be realistic, okay? We all know what our kids are like, and if you have a special ed kid, okay, we know firsthand what our children are like. So that's something, and I'm not against it, I'm saying it's something that needs to be thought about, okay?
There are a lot of things that need to be thought out and thought out thoroughly before any decision is made. Again, we're giving information, we're not making decisions.
No, I get it, and I understand that, and I'm just saying, I would like, when you come back for another presentation, how much say we would have whether or not a child would be sent out of district? That's important to know.
That's up to the team. That's up to the
Right.
parents, that's up to the, you know, the people on the
Okay,
team.
but,
That's up to
okay,
Mr. Claus.
no, it's up to a team, but the majority of a team is gonna be made up of another school district, is my point, okay? If I send my child to your house and he's not behaving, you can send him home to me, okay? You're not gonna wanna keep him at your house. That's what I'm saying is going on, and that's all I'm asking is to find out more information on that, how much say Milton will have, whether a child is out of district. It's all I'm asking you to take into consideration.
We brought this up when we visited, Prospect Mountain, when we visited their school and had a meeting with the superintendent and all that. And we specifically asked about that. And he said the final say is on, that we would keep our special ed director and that, the special ed director and the parent would have final say on services and where they receive them and how they receive them.
You're not being written out, if that's what you're afraid of.
No, what I'm saying is, as a special education attorney, okay, I'm telling you firsthand, that's a lie. Because the decisions are not based on two people in a team meeting, it's based on an entire team. And that's my concern is, they're telling you, oh, Mr. Clark will have final say. No, Mr. Clark doesn't have final say. No, a parent doesn't have final say, because I may want my child at some private school. So the decision is gonna be made by that whole team, most of which is not gonna be for Milton. And that's something that is gonna have to be talked about and negotiated, because it could be a huge cost to us.
That would come from, you know, a lawyer's team. We're not lawyers, so I'm
But
saying.
it's
And the parent always has the right to
Yeah, the
appeal.
parent also.
So, but we will.
And I understand that, I'm just saying what they're telling you, I'm asking you to look further into that.
Definitely we will, because we're trying to look at everything and present. it.
Yes, Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. If all else fails, read the contract. In the contract between, Barrington and Dover, which is probably typical, it says that, the sending districts, Barrington, will pay for the special ed, as Laura said, on one-to-one paras, and all out-of-district charges. Legal fees will be to each district as to the nature of the complaint. And Barrington will pay for out-of-district adjudicated IEP, charges. That is the road, whether it goes to a court decision and what the sending district.
Yeah, and that's how Alton's read too. I read all their special ed and theirs was written pretty much just as that. Yeah.
And basically, we're not going to hurt each other, are we?
And then I also did, take the special ed director and all that pay out of the savings, the budget, when I ran those numbers as well, because I knew that we would retain that position as an employee as well.
So does what, I'm sorry, because I'm kind of a layperson, but does what this mean, like in summary, does it mean that if Milton has a student that is not doing well in the district that we send them to, let's just say Farmington just for a name, the student is not doing well in Farmington, that then if there's a decision that's made to send that student somewhere else because Farmington said, we can't deal with this student, we don't want to deal with them anymore, they're disruptive in the classroom, whatever, that then Milton will pay for it.
Correct. And we're doing that now. There are actual students in this Milton district that go out of district for school, and Milton pays that tuition. That's what we do. Yes?
Can I just make one comment though? I mean, my husband teaches at Dover High, he's been there for a long time. If the kid is acting up, he doesn't ask him what town they're from. But I think we can't lose sight of that either. He doesn't treat the Barrington kids and different from the Maverick kids because he's in the CTC, so he has kids from everywhere. He doesn't say, oh, you're from Farmington, I'm gonna send you out, but the kid from Dover, I'm gonna keep in the classroom. So I just want us to not lose sight of the teachers who are probably gonna be dealing with the kids as kids, not from a particular town.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you for your time.
Okay, can I use some of your space? Thank you. Hi, good evening. My name is Sally Riley, and thank you all for coming. I'm really thrilled to see everybody coming out to ask questions, to find out information, and that's what our committee is supposed to do. We're supposed to explore all the different things, we're supposed to have people ask us questions, and we're trying to answer them. So, one of the things that I want to make sure that people understand is where we're collecting the data from. So we're collecting it from 3 sources. And that's important because you just don't want to collect data from one source. So we're collecting it from the questionnaires that all the different towns send to us. We're also collecting it from the Department of Education. And then we have school-wide visits. So far, we've only visited 2 school districts. One is the Prospect Mountain in Alton, and the other is Rochester. What I'd like to have you look at this document, and on here, you can see that most of them, we have 3 points of data. So this is what we call data trend. So we're trying to find a pattern of the data. So when you look at the data and you look at 3 different things like, for example, the graduation rate, you see that we went back 3 years. Now with COVID, it was a little bit, a different year. So there are a couple of spots where we only got 2 years of data. So, but most of them we have 3 years. And when you see 3 years of data, you see what we call a trend. So if you see, like, for example, let's just take the graduation rate. You can see that for most schools, there's a trend. So you can see that if you looked at a few more years, that trend would probably hold true. The dropout rate, and I hope somebody asked, but if not, I'll point out that we know Milton is a small school district. So when you lose a couple of students to the dropout, you know that's going to be a lower percentage.
Higher.
So, right?
Higher, higher percentage.
Excuse me, higher percentage. Sorry. So, please understand that we recognize that.
And thank you, my friend,
No problem, the old
who
map.
who we work together in Rochester, so thank you. So, we are aware of that, so I want you to understand that. The next one is the student-teacher ratio, and I think somebody, on Facebook, I tried to stay off of Facebook, but anyway, I think somebody on Facebook said, we're talking about an average. So I think somebody asked their student, do you only have 9 kids in a class? And when we're talking about the average, say, for example, you have 2 kids in a chemistry class, and you have 20 kids in English language arts. So you have 22 kids divided by 2 classes. So that means you have 11 kids for an average. So when you look at these across the board, I always kind of look at that as a grain of salt, because, some classes are going to be higher and some are going to be lower. And that, by the way, class size was a really important on our survey. It scored very high. The parents felt that smaller class sizes is something that they value. Accreditation. And before with accreditation, I think at the last meeting, kind of glossed over accreditation. And I just want to point out that the accreditation is very important. And just to talk about the accreditation just for a minute, the accreditation process, it's really a vigorous process. And what happens is you have a team of educators, including regular ed, special ed, administrators, curriculum people, special ed people, guidance counselors, and they come into your school to evaluate the rigor of your school as well as the facilities. And before even the team arrives, they ask you to do a self-study. And a self-study means that you look at everything in your curriculum, in your classes that you offer. They look to see what kind of services you have. They even look to see what your teaching strategies are in that school for those students. And so they're asking you to do this self-study, to look everything over. And then they come in and they look at your documents of what you put together. And including in those documents would be test scores, proficiency scores. And remember how I said we look at least 3 years? So when you see proficiency scores for 3 years, you see a trend happening. So when you look at these figures on here, you can see, unless something changes, that trend is going to continue to happen. Then when you evaluate everything, the team, the visiting team, prints out recommendations for your school to follow. And then your school writes an action plan. So when I look at some of the proficiency scores on this, I would say that a proficiency action team would probably highlight the math. And when you look at the scores for the high school, you see in 2017, 15%, 2018, 11%, 2019, 10%. And the proficiency scores weren't done last year because of COVID. But you can see what the trend is. So if something doesn't happen to change that, it will probably continue to decline. So what accreditation does is when they come in, they make you look at things and say, how can we change this? And nobody is blaming anybody. There's not any blame. It's just saying, what can we do to make this different? Do we need to have a different curriculum? Do we need to have different strategies that we're not using? So all this goes into an accreditation report.
Sally?
Yes.
I just,
I feel like this is leaning a little bit more into the advocating for something than presenting information, all this. So I'd like to really stick back just to the numbers.
Okay, all right.
And Sally, if
Yes,
I know we have a no under Newt being accredited, but it is in the budget, and the plan was to begin the process this year. So just so that
Okay.
people do know that, I mean, as an educator, I totally understand.
yep,
But I have a question for you, Sally.
sure.
Accreditation, does it come from the state or the federal government?
It doesn't come, it comes from the New England Association of
So it doesn't come
Accreditation.
from the federal government, Department of Education, or the state? It's a district. Like the,
It's a consortium
Yeah.
from colleges and
Right.
schools.
yeah, okay.
And so, you usually seek accreditation
Yeah.
because it, helps your school to develop.
But I want people to realize it's not from the federal government and it's not from,
Oh, no,
no.
okay. All right, so let's look at the, we were talking about, we collected the information about the accreditation, and thank you for letting me talk about the accreditation because I think it is important for people to know about it. But I'll move on. So the next part is the minimum number of Milton students that the districts would want. They would want, in Alton, because there were so few students, they would like 100%. The same thing for Dover, and you can see Farmington says that, they take 75 to 80% of the students. And then 90% for Rochester, and Somersworth didn't provide us with any information. What's the phase-in? So the phase-in, thank you for asking that. So the phase-in, I would be worried if I had a junior and say, oh my gosh, does that mean that they're not gonna finish their senior year at Newt? And so what, Alton offered, Prospect Mountain, was a phase-in. So in other words, you don't have to send your students all at once. You could just phase them in. Okay?
Sally, can I ask you to repeat those figures for the 100% for Alton, to take the students?
Yes, it's right on there, Doug.
Sure.
Yeah, it's right on right there.
Oh, okay, all right, I see it.
Okay.
Thank you.
But we could start with just the freshmen.
Right,
Or just the freshman and sophomore class.
right.
So that way the juniors and seniors could finish out their year here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And then, you see the SAT scores and the proficiency scores. One of the things that, I would like you to realize that with the proficiency scores, when you take a look at, so we have 132 Milton High School students. So the proficiency score for them, and I'm using the 2019, 10%. So when you take 10% of 132, you're talking about 13 students out of 132 scored proficient. So that leaves, 119 that are not proficient out of that 132. And, I'm sorry? Or didn't take, yeah, they could have not taken the test. But it's pretty hard not to take the test because you have to provide a reason why you're not. I believe that is still how it works in schools, that if you have to say to the state, oh, they didn't take the test because of, they were out sick.
My son didn't take the test.
Or a special ed, yeah.
My son took it in 15 minutes. I sound like a lady in the blue up here. I have one of those.
Okay, so, let's look at this then. So there's 119 that's not proficient. So let's say 10% of those 119, decided just to guess, okay? Or higher, okay. And then I heard somebody say, well, it's because of special ed that the numbers are
I
low.
don't really think
And,
that's the point. I think we're just supposed to be presenting information, and we can all read percentages. So I just don't think, I think this is skewing towards telling us what's wrong with Milton. And I really just want to say,
Thought you were just pointing out how numbers
Yeah.
were. If
So-
they want to ask you questions.
Then it
so,
continues to different
you know, that is fine. You know, I, certainly respect your opinion, and I hope you, just see that we're collecting data. But I also want you to understand to look at the scores. Please look at all the information that is presented. Because, you know, one of the things that I got involved in this with is because of my desire to make sure that everybody has information to make an informed decision. So looking at the information, everybody's going to make up their own mind, and people have probably already made up their mind. But please look at the information. And so, yes, Peg.
I mean, I know what you just said, and you pointed out Milton. I just did a calculation for Alton. Let's see, what was it, 28% of 474 students were proficient, leaving 341 students who are not.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think people need to, you know, kind of as Emily, I think it was you who pointed out, let's look at every single one of the schools. I
Yep.
mean, I think pointing out just one, our school,
Oh, no,
And-
absolutely. If you look at
Right.
Farmington, it's just as
Yeah.
bad.
but I mean, I think people look,
Yep.
excuse me, I think what people are looking at is only 10%, where if we look at another district, it might be 28% or 30, but using the analogy that was just used, I mean, I think you need to look at the total population and the percentage that are proficient and see how many are not proficient.
Yep, and fair enough, yeah, definitely. And that's why you look at all the information.
Yep.
Larry, do you have questions, comments?
No, if I'm following your information, it seems that every district, including Farmington, has accreditation at least equal to Milton's, and we will improve by joining that school. Second question, how do you, or do you want to, or is it planned to tease out the longitudinal, that over time, cohort performance of Milton students in the larger student pool? Are we taking it for granted that performance of Milton will go up and that can be tracked as a capability?
I definitely think that you can certainly increase the scores, because one of the things, and I hope people understand, I've had kids that graduated from New High School. I have grandchildren who went to Milton, and certainly all kids can learn, and kids learn in different ways. And I think what's important about the whole thing with doing self-studies is that you're looking at the information. Now, John Peter, just before we started, he showed me some information about math that's happening in the elementary. And I can say last year, I worked with my grandson, who was in the 4th grade, and I was really pleased with the math that was being done. I don't know if it's a new program or it's a new program. And so you can already see, I thought he was getting a higher level of math than he, you know, had before, and certainly what my granddaughters did, you know, before. So there's always room for improvement
With any school.
with any school, correct?
I would just want people to also take into consideration that these other schools have split classes. You don't have every single junior in the same English class at the same time. From honors, college prep, general, and pain in the ass kid. you know, where the teacher spends 45 minutes of a 50-minute class trying to wrangle 3 kids to pay attention. By being at a bigger school where they split, you're gonna have those college prep and honor kids with other honor kids who want to be there to learn. Versus being shoved into a classroom because you're a junior, you're in your junior class, history, math, everything together, and you're gonna be able to get kids that want to learn much more, because they're gonna have kids that wanna learn, and then they have vocations within the school to help gear those kids that just wanna be a pain. They can get them into classes where they can be directing them in a different style to help get them to the best education they can because they don't want to take.
Correct, and then, and the taxpayers of Milton can pay for my pain in the ass kid to go to a special private school because the receiving school district doesn't want them. And that would go for your child too. So the town of Milton would pay for all of that. Just keep that in mind.
Well, but that, they're paying for it anyway, because we're paying for it now here. But that would also allow the kids that aren't paying the asses to have actual learning going on, versus juggling of kids just trying to keep them on.
Okay. Oh, nobody's buried here.
I just feel we need to say real quick about that, that's true, and it would be different for our kids, but there's a whole other school spot where those student classes are actually better for everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. My daughter would just tell me how much time was just wasted every single day.
And that was one of the, that was the top thing on the survey that we gave out, was to have a large variety of classes, from AP to honors, to college prep, to, basic classes. So you would have that wide a range. And I know that that's, you know, I'm not being critical of Milton, I'm just saying that it's very hard to do when you only have 132 kids. It's very hard to do. So it's not that, you know, we're trying to say, oh, Milton is bad, because I don't think Milton is bad. I think we're caught in this situation where you have such small numbers, you can't offer kids other things that you can in a large school. And I'm certainly not up here saying that, you know, you need to send 132 kids to a school of over 1,000. Because, you know, personally, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but personally, I don't think that's where they should go. I think that it needs to be something that's more in line with the numbers that they have. Or, you know, well, anyway, okay. Okay, I digress. So, all right, when you look at the number of special ed students throughout the different schools, I think they're pretty even. Milton has a few more, some have a few less, some have about the same. Also, we heard about the special ed costs, and I was really struck by this and we've only visited 2 schools, so we have 3 more to go. So, you know, we'll report back on those 3 so you can hear information about that if you so desire. But I was really struck when we went to Prospect Mountain. First of all, when they mentioned the tuition costs, and they said that speech, you know, OT, PT, and hearing impaired, and I think I left that off the chart, the hearing impaired. Those were all included as long as you had, you know, and not us, but they had 5 students that needed those those services. So that to me was really impressive. And I asked a couple of times, and I said, so you're saying that in the tuition costs, you would include those services? Because when I looked at the budget for, Milton, I could see that those services were contracted out. And what I mean by that is not that they were sent out, but that they brought somebody in to give those services to students. And I'm certainly not questioning in any way that this is spending too much money on these kids that need these services, because the kids deserve the services, and that is money well spent. But I was kind of shocked when they said, oh, sure, because Peg and I worked in Rochester, we had Wakefield kids, and I know that, because we visited there too, that during the meeting, they handed a sheet that had all the extra costs for speech, OT, PT. So that is an additional onto those tuition costs. And then at Prospect Mountain, they have this life skills class, and I'm not too sure how many students in Milton are sent out for that type of class. So it would be a class where students need to spend most of their time within a self-contained classroom. Mr. Klopp, so what do you say, 2, 3 students?
But I will,
Okay.
that's a gap right now in what we can provide, something.
Yeah,
I'm working on, but I will say that.
right, and we're not sure, I'm not sure how many students, I don't need to know any students' names or anything, but we were trying to figure out, you know, different programs that kids go out to, so we can kind of put that figure in. But just looking at the, cost savings for those speech, OT, PT, hearing impaired, it would be over $100,000. So just so you have that information. Okay, all right. ROTC, I thought that was interesting information because some of the students may be interested in those programs. We did a reflection about, I took the student handbooks and the curriculum to try to come up with some kind of information about each one of the schools. That's right, good catch. Okay. All right. In-house AP courses, I believe, and Jen, maybe you can say that, tell me this, that presently there aren't any at the high schools that are participating in AP courses.
Exactly.
We have had them in the past, I mean, we have quite a turnover of staff this year, that's why we're not having any next year.
Yeah.
There were people trained to teach them, and a lot of them.
Yeah. So, I don't think there's been any for a couple of years. I talked to the transportation person because I tried to figure out, you know, if there would be savings if, kids went to a school that offered AP courses, because I understood, Jan had said that they get bussed out or something.
We did have them in-house though as well.
Oh, okay, okay.
We used 5 that were in-house up to 2 years ago.
Okay, because I didn't have that information. All right, and then the Career Technical Center, and you can read that for yourself along the bottom, where different kids can go. The governance, I know that was a big thing for, the school board, because when you're going through different schools, you're probably not gonna have a vote on the school board, because it's their district. But, when you look at, you know, Prospect Mountain in Alton has some unique ideas. So they have, they said that you could have voting seats on standing committees. So finance and budget, policy and personnel, and building and grounds, you would have a vote on those. So those are pretty high-powered, committees. On the school board, and this was a little bit different than the others. On the school board, you'd have 2 non-voting seats. However, during the meetings, just like here, you can join in the conversation, offer opinions, and so on. but when it came to the final vote, you wouldn't have that vote. The distance and time we put in there, just to show you what that would be there.
Yeah, I have a question on that.
Sure.
Because I asked our transportation director on, just for instance, how long our children would be on a bus just to go to Farmington. He said 45 minutes to an hour. So I'd like to know how you get 11 minutes when I specifically asked for how long my child would sit on a bus. It's not an extra 11 minutes.
Do you want me to explain the theory behind that? 'Cause, so I went to a school where I was bused out for high school. And what I think as far as cost savings and comfortability and what makes sense would be that you would just bus the kids to school. I'm talking elementary time would probably have to change, to reflect with when the high schoolers leave and come back. And then you would bus them from the school out instead of the 2 bus routes, right? Because I did the same thing growing up. We rode a bus to school, and when we reached high school, we rode to school, and then we had the buses that took us to our high school.
But they're still on a bus to go to.
Just to Farmington would be 45 minutes to an
But
hour.
I think that the argument is you're adding 11 minutes to their day, not 45 minutes to their day.
No, and that's what I asked
Because,
him.
no, because I'm saying
Yes.
that if, like, my kids live in Milton,
School anyway.
right, my kids live in Milton Mills, it takes me 5 minutes to get here, different. And, but they're on the bus, they would be on the bus longer, so I think to be fair, they're saying it's not gonna add 45 minutes.
It's gonna add extra.
That what you're, is
Well,
sort of
I
your
just
thing.
know, I mean, I live in Milton Mills, I live on the most furthest part of Milton Mills. And my kids are on a bus anywhere from 30, 35 minutes now. And then you're adding on switching buses and going to another school. That is a lot of time to spend on a bus.
Those numbers are plus 11 minutes, not.
Right, so that's just, yeah, it would still take them 30 minutes to get here, and then it
Right,
would
and
take
then
them
you
another
add on
hour.
time to switch buses, time to switch buses and hopefully catch the bus, and then be on that bus to that new district.
And I mean, let's be honest, I found rides from upperclassmen
We don't have a lot.
in a car, a lot of times.
The other thing too is that we also understand that a lot of our students are now being bused to Somersworth, Dover, Rochester, or VOTEC. So they're on a bus, they come to school, get on a bus.
Just for 1.5 hours a day, there's not a lot of kids, like 4.
Yeah.
Just 4 kids.
Right, but again,
Okay. I'm just saying 11 minutes is, just 11 minutes seems small, especially given traffic in the morning. All right.
Sally,
Yeah.
how much longer do you think you'll be?
Not long.
Okay.
All right, sorry. Okay, so, the middle school you can read through for yourself. If you notice on here, it does show there's a lot of empty spaces for, Alton. And this is the thing that, people alluded to on the committee, that, with Alton, I just want to make sure that people understand that, it's a little different setup in Alton. So in Alton, when you look at the districts across the top, Dover is one FAU, Farmington is one FAU, Milton is one FAU, Rochester is one FAU, even though they take kids from different towns. And so in Alton, what they're called is a GMA, and that's a joint maintenance agreement. And what they did was, they came together, Barnstead and Alton, and said, we want a better high school. So what they did was they joined together and made an FAU, which is Prospect Mountain. But they still have an FAU in Barnstead and in Alton. So whereas all the other districts have one FAU, in Alton, they have 2. So it's the Prospect Mountain and Alton. And then in Farnstead, it's Farnstead and Prospect Mountain, right? And so, the superintendent, we had sent a letter from the Exploration Committee, and we asked them, you know, would Alton Central School be willing to, accept middle school students? Because that's our, you know, what we're supposed to be doing through this committee with the voters of Milton, was to go out and find out feasibility. And so they sent us a letter back saying, yes, they would be willing to talk with Milton, about an agreement for middle school students. And, their letter was compelling because they talked about the fact that they wanted a true partnership. And some of us who went up to Prospect Mountain, they talked about the partnership. I'm not sure how I felt about that when we went to some other school districts, well, one other. You know, they seem to think that, that would benefit just not Milton kids, but also Alton kids, and they looked at it as a true partnership. So just in conclusion, I would just say to all of you, you know, please keep an open mind. Please, look at all the information. That's all we're supposed to be doing. It's human to have your own personal feelings. And, you know, I just, thank you very much for your time. And if you have any more questions. Oh, yes. Oh, gosh, how could I forget that? Thank you. Okay, so this is why we like to have the team. All right, so as a matter of fact, when we are up to Prospect Mountain, they offered an invitation to the school board as well as the Exploration Committee to come up and hear a presentation and walk through their school. So we're hoping that we can arrange that with the board. They gave us, they were really generous, they gave us a 2-week span that we could try to get everybody together. And I think Abigail is maybe going to try to work that out with the board and then the others, because, you know, the bottom line is we all want what's best for the kids, right? You want what's best for your family. I want what's best for my family. And of course, we all do. These are kids. So please, you know, consider everything. So are there any other questions? And Doug, I'll get out of the way.
I didn't know I could.
Oh, great.
So, when will be our final report? Give me an estimated time.
You know, I would say that we have 3 more schools to visit. So I would say that probably in August, we would probably be finishing up, and our committee will be making a recommendation. So, based on the information that we have found.
I think the best thing to do for us to do in the future, instead of making this part of a school board meeting, have a separate hearing. Everybody can come into a meeting at the auditorium and discuss this, not at a meeting like this, when we make our final decision. I mean, get the final
You
report.
mean like an informal?
Yeah,
Like a public hearing?
yeah. Then we'll have to do what else has to be done after that.
Well, I know you had said earlier that it was gonna be up to the voters.
Oh, yeah.
So I would think there was gonna be public meetings anyway. But I think our charge was with the committee, was to report to you. And we certainly, you know, don't have to make it as long as this one. We really came up with a lot of information that we found out before, so we wanted to share it with you all.
But say when we do that, can we get that information out to everybody early?
Yes, definitely. And I want to thank you for, the superintendent's office today. Let me copy off some of the papers, because we were trying to figure out how we're going to get those copies.
That's one of the biggest problems. We don't have the funds or where
Right.
do we go to
Yeah.
tell
Right.
them.
Come to the SAU.
Info out.
Yes, and actually, we had, asked Jerry, and I think you were going to look in the budget, or, I don't know, maybe knows where it is, but you had talked about the fact that there might be some funds that we could copy some things off, because we were actually thinking about, that we could, make copies of information like this. You know how you get those packets, when there's a vote coming up and they tell you how everybody voted and all that stuff, the different committees. So when you go to vote for the town, you have the information. So we were hoping to do something like that, and we did check into the cost of that, but it's really expensive. And so, looking at us as a committee, you know, what do we put in? $250 each, so, you know, we're hoping that maybe we can find some funds someplace to do that.
You shouldn't have to do that because you are a subcommittee appointed by the school board. You have school board members on there, so you shouldn't have to worry about obtaining money and not
Oh,
get
okay.
copies made.
Okay, then we won't worry.
We were just taking it on ourselves.
Yeah, yeah.
We also just have that, available on the city website.
Yeah.
It was
Something,
supposed,
yeah.
We had asked to get
it was
it.
supposed to be put on it, and I was supposed to put it on the Facebook, but nobody sent me any information, so I didn't put anything
Well, I
on
don't
it.
really follow on Facebook, I prefer it on the website.
And that's what they
I
discussed.
think the updated information we can get over.
You turned off public comment.
Yeah.
Everybody is bashing everybody.
Yes,
Yeah,
It's being bashed, kids are getting into
Yes,
it, it's
yeah.
very negative, it's very demoralizing.
and I think that's a great suggestion, I really do.
I don't have any privy to that one, so, not me.
So,
Mine shut off, so there's no commenting on that.
so Tammy, did you get this though? Didn't you get this?
I didn't get the updated one.
Oh,
Send me the updated one, and then Alicia was gonna send me the sports, and,
okay.
Oh, I thought,
nobody
well,
sent
I had
it.
already given the sports, so I thought
I
somebody
never
else
got
was
that.
just gonna send it all
Okay,
in.
so we'll make
Right
sure,
on.
we'll get our act together, because we want people to have the information.
Well,
Peg,
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was gonna say, you know what, I mean, you people all got up and you talked, and I know you did a good job with all the research, and this is great. However, the sports, the this, the that, we didn't have copies, so I'm just kind of sitting here, you know,
Right. And-
So I would love
Yeah.
to have the information so that I can look over absolutely
Right.
everything, and then have some
You know,
reasonable
and-
questions.
Yeah, and absolutely, and I agree 100%. And we'll have a partnership with the FAU office to make copies, because,
yeah, we would have done that, but none of us wanted the out of pocket.
Well, even if you had
so,
emailed,
you
even
know,
if you had emailed all of your information, at least to the school board members, I mean, that would have been awesome, because, I mean, getting this and listening, it's great,
Yeah.
but I'm more of a look and see and compare hard copy person.
Well, and understand that a lot, like even yesterday, it was my son's birthday, and I was still working on a lot. I
Okay.
mean, I put hours into this, and so some of it I was still working on.
Yeah, I'm not
And
bashing
No.
anybody for any of the work, it's just,
right, you
It
want
was-
copies. We
it was
understand.
unfortunate that, you know, you guys got up and you had all of your information, but we didn't have anything.
Right, then
Yeah,
that's,
I have what you had.
yeah. And so, you know, we'll do a better job about that and, making sure, because you need the information to make a decision. Yes, Mr. Pratt?
I thought that the incoming superintendent was gonna put all this on the SAU page. That was my understanding, having watched the exploration meeting, was that he
It
was
was
gonna
supposed
put
to
it
go
on-
to Kathy Vigu to have it put on there, yes.
Yeah. Oh, didn't you get this at the, well, I was.
You're correct, it was supposed to.
Yeah.
It just didn't,
Yeah, we have to get.
they had other things.
We have it now.
They were working on it. Okay, moving along.
still finalized.
Get the information to the
Didn't wanna put it out and then be like, oh, okay, I reran numbers. Now I gotta take this off and give you another
I'm
one,
just saying,
right?
I think this information has been out there, I don't think you guys did a bad job.
Yeah.
Putting it out there, I mean, I've been able to look at this for couple weeks.
It was the updated one, they had some more information that they were.
Yeah, and as we get more information, you're right, Tammy, we keep adding to it because we want everybody to have the facts. So all the time,
Sometimes even looking at Facebook and just reading the comments and maybe somebody asking a particular question, so then we go research that and we start getting answers for maybe something that we saw on there, so.
So, one more question for Larry, and then I'll cut it short.
well, I think somebody else had a question
Well-
too, Doug.
two more pieces of information when they come back. Is this an appropriate time to do?
Go ahead. No, ladies first.
Sorry, Larry.
One question I had was, I was wondering if when you come back, if you could give us, information about the percentage of special education students that have parents? Because you had said that those were to be a cost, so that would be helpful information.
If we can get it.
If we can get
Of
it.
course.
And then the other question is, when you were giving all of your numbers about the savings and all of that, I would really like to see a document that breaks it down so I can follow your train of thought. That would be really helpful.
So maybe I'll get like, because, and it will, so like, this is the budget, right? And I did do a breakdown of Milton Middle School, Milton High School by the different sections, because you don't need the whole thing where with the FICA and the health insurance and the this and that, just the whole numbers of each department, right? And then, I mean, I guess I could try and write something out. But then also keep in mind that these are not gonna be, you're not gonna get an exact number until a decision is made, and if that decision is negotiated, and then it's, you know,
I just think
so
as
it's
a
gonna
math
fluctuate.
person, if I could see this is how it was figured out, these are the numbers that were used, then it would help me follow the train of thought. And I know that when you're in the middle of doing something, it's really sometimes hard to see it from the perspective of somebody that hasn't been in the middle of it at all.
Yeah.
And so I just
So,
wanna offer.
Sarah, do you mean like the formula? You wanna see the formula?
And we can get that to you.
Get my phone number before we leave.
And I'm happy to even, like, provide another perspective.
That would be awesome.
Yep.
And I think that's the other thing to know is, I haven't done as much research as these ladies, but they definitely are not getting paid to do it. They're spending so much time, and people get so upset. So I think it's very important for like any help that we can get, just to get the information out, town voted on it is so important, and just respecting each other's personal opinions, top priority here.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll get you my phone number for
Okay,
you.
now, I'm gonna make one exception, the lady in the gray, I don't think has spoke yet, and then we'll go to Larry, and I'm gonna end it there. Oh, yeah, Greg.
This may be a really stupid question.
No
Question, just try. Okay, so an SAU and a school district, you said as taxpayers, we won't have a vote on what goes on in those schools with our children, right?
At the school board level, like, for example, this school board level, you know, does their voting. So if you were taking, somebody in, say if Wakefield was here, then they would not have a vote on the school board. And that's the difference that I was trying to point out with the difference.
Right, so with an SAU though, they would?
No,
No.
no.
Okay,
If you form a cooperative, then.
Right, and that's what it is at Prospect Mountain.
Prospect Mountain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Because both of them are equal partners at Prospect Mountain.
Oyster River is the same way, so John and Natalie, so they're all involved. Right, right.
I gotta end it with Larry, please.
I believe operationally, the state, education department assigns, SAU numbers for convenience, for the school district.
Right.
The definition of the receiving school district is the school that becomes the school of record, is responsible for curriculum, retention of records, discipline, interaction with faculty, parents, and the rest. But the reason I had my hand up is I don't want to be a grump all the time, and I just want to.
Thank you, Larry.
Not all the time. I just want to make sure, that people understand what a delightful eye chart, you put together. You know, read this line, this does this, read this, does that. I'm still data sensitive. I want to know 100 children, $3 per mile final cost to transport. That is your transportation cost. If you have elementary school that can use the
Okay, well, we will try our best, and, you know, we will try our best, and maybe Nate and Jerry can help us, because we don't have that information readily at hand. And so if these are the information that voters want, then we are just volunteers on this subcommittee trying to do the best we can to give you the information. So, you know.
We can only give you the information that we receive.
Yeah, so, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, I've been asked to ask for, okay, we have a motion to take a 10-minute recess?
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
Peg?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
So we'll come right back. Does the board want to have public comments other than on this subject?
No.
Other than this subject?
What subject?
The exploratory committee.
No.
Okay, we're done on that.
Okay, moving on.
Superintendent update.
Okay, Jerry, I think.
Yes.
Fine.
Okay.
It's your letter, page 16.
All right. Yeah, so just 3 or 4 things to talk about. One is, concerning my certification in New Hampshire, I was gonna take an MBA, I told the board I was gonna take an MBA class, or get my MBA. That is changed my CAS, to the University of Maine. It's much more, it's quicker, it's much more compatible with the job. So that has switched a little bit. I wrote about it in my summary for the board. The cool thing about that is, in that program, I will take 2 classes that I also need for a for a business administrator certificate in New Hampshire. So it'll all work out. It'll be a nice little package in the end. I have been working with Nate a lot more lately. We had some technical stuff where I couldn't physically get on the computer to get to the software. So more and more things are happening all the time, learning a lot. We have had some last minute resignations across the district. We're looking to fill those as we speak. Hopefully we're done getting resignations. We had a near miss today, but that teacher, John, has decided not to move, so we still have her, which is good. So all in all, it's been rather enlightening for me. I've enjoyed the staff that I've worked with very much, and looking forward to this year. 2 quick things, just for the board's purpose. I will have your district goals next meeting, so we can count on that. Those are all relatively done, but I just want to polish it up. And I do want to say, for anybody listening, and for especially parents and kids, and I hope they're tuning in, any vote about closing high school or middle school would not impact next year. It probably would not impact the year after that. Jen has told me that she's got seniors that are calling her and going, I can't graduate new. And those decisions, whatever they are a year, if not. I'm going to be really public about that and say that. Being a high school guy, I know, juniors and seniors are looking at it, they duly are freaking out. So I want to put that on the record. And that's about it. That's all I have.
Okay, I want to get something out to the public also, because there was some concern about our superintendent, having, his credentials. Now, I asked my board to go to page, the public is going to have the page 82 to 91. I asked you to go to page 87. Take my mask off so I can read this. Each school administrative unit shall provide its superintendent services to be performed as required by RSA 194C4. School districts shall not be required to have a superintendent and may assign these services to one or more administrative personnel while working full or part-time, or such services may independently be contracted, okay? So they don't require us to have a superintendent, but that is what our goal is with this hiring. I don't know how long it's gonna take you to get your, Jerry, how long is it gonna take you to get your credentials? 18 months?
I have a certification in Maine. It's not the same in New Hampshire.
For superintendent?
Yeah.
Okay.
And when I interviewed, I said wrongly, I said, Maine and New Hampshire are reciprocal, so we're all set. And it turns out, I found out in the strawberry field in Maine while we were picking strawberries, that every certification is reciprocal between Maine and New Hampshire, except superintendent. So I've asked, full application for assistant superintendent. Under the law, I can perform all the duties. Even under assistant superintendent, I can do all those duties. But I just wanted to clarify the fact that currently my certification in New Hampshire is not here, not present. So I think Doug just wanted to clarify.
Correct. That's all I wanted to do. Anybody, all set?
How many courses, how many credits do you need?
33.
And you can have 33 done in 18 months?
Should be done in, yeah.
And since you had said to us you only needed 2 courses on the BA, why are you not taking those right away?
Because they're in that cohort, they're in those classes anyway.
Okay, we all set?
For public, yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, moving on, monthly expense report, 6/01/21 to 6/30/2021, page 18 to 43. Do I have any questions?
Believe it or not, no questions.
Wow,
Okay,
wow. Make a note of that. Peg had no questions.
okay,
So, exactly what our total balance, come on.
okay, monthly revenue report, period of 6/01 to 6/30, page 44 to 46. Any questions, Peg, or anybody?
I'm going to use that and the grant report because being on the budget committee, I really compared, okay, we've got these grants, what's the revenue we're getting? And I've already spoken with Nathan, and I will be speaking to Jerry about making some changes to make life a lot easier for me to do a one-on-one comparison.
Okay, all set? Monthly grant report for the period of 6/1 to 6/30, page 47 and 55. Any questions, anybody? All set? Okay, page 56, 59, Treasurer's Bank reconciliation for February of 2021. I need a motion to accept it.
I will make a motion to accept it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Is that Emily?
Sorry.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay. All right, Peg?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Okay, Treasurer's Bank reconciliation from, March of, 2021, that's page 60 to 66. Wait a minute, I'm wrong.
What?
I'm wrong. I made a mistake. Make sure I got the right page number. 64.
I'll make a motion to approve the March report.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Melissa. Peg?
Aye.
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 Okay, I do have one question. How is Mackenzie doing? Is he still cranking them out? Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, this is May 21st, page 65, 66, food service operating cost. Any questions?
No.
Okay. June 2021, page 67.
I'm sorry. My only question is,
59.
are these the final numbers, Nate? Or will we get some more stuff
Those are the final numbers from Cafe Service.
for the end of the year?
Yes, I have file service account, so we're done with that.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Set. Page 69. 70 is, April 30th, 2021, it's the Milton School Trust fund balances.
Right.
Page 71, 72, May 31st, 2021, Milton School District Trust fund balances. All right, I think that's you, John, up now, page 73?
Oh, town.
A lot of people are,
For that one, okay.
yeah, it's back to
I
people.
have comments on the pastor, all this high school talk, I'm elementary, I'm ready for bed. Past my bedtime. Anyway, so this is the NWAR, is our district testing we do every year in the fall, winter, and spring, except for during COVID. We didn't, actually take it last spring. We did do it in the fall. So what you usually do either fall to fall or fall to spring. So what I did was I looked at fall 2019, pre-COVID, and then spring 2021 to get a big range to see where we were, because I wanted to see, there was a lot of talk about, you know, gaps in children falling behind because of the pandemic, not being in school or being hybrid and so forth. So I'll break this down. One page is math, the other page is reading. So if they're the same color, that means it's the same group of kids. So the blue, yellow, so forth, and also the fifth grade, I don't have numbers for the sixth grade. They're sixth graders now. The second column basically shows how much growth they made, as this is the average for the class. This isn't the number of proficient students, this is the average on their RIT scores, which is a growth model. It's more on a growth. So what the column D is the mean for each class. So you see it's like 155 is a RIT score, a 173, and it gives you kind of a range. That's column D. Column C is actually what was the mean. So column B is the norm, so what you would say the average score. That came out in spring of 2020. That's usually 5 years, I believe they do the norms. The last time it came out was 2015. So it wasn't just a 2020 norm. But what I wanted to point out is that when you count the standard deviation, our students are falling within the standard nationwide norm in spring. I would love to see them right at the norm or above the norm, but they're right around the norm, which means our students at MES did not fall that far behind during COVID. They're right sort of where they need to be. So which I thought was fairly good news. And I also wanted to point out, as Sally mentioned, we had a new math program last year. It's called My Math. And also this year, we had an intervention program and an enrichment program called Dreambox, which we just started doing. We did a pilot starting in January, and we purchased it full this year. And it is really, the kids really love it, and I think it's really shown a big difference for our kids, because our kids grew an average of 19.8 points in math and 13.8 points in reading. So we had a stronger growth in math, which is not typical for this district. So that program and the new math series and Dreambox has really helped. This year we have Wonders, which is coming, and also an Inspiration, which is our science program, which connects with Wonders. So it's a literacy-based science program. So we're hoping to see that some more growth within our language arts programs. So any questions from, yes?
No, I just have a comment that since I've been on the board, I'm really pleased with what I'm seeing as the growth on the NEWE scores. And as a teacher, we did NEWE scores in Rochester, and I'm very familiar with them.
Yes, you mean Sally, even though she didn't say that.
Right.
I'm not slighted, don't worry.
She's not sitting there anymore. She's moved. So I'm really very pleased with what I'm seeing is the progress with the standard scores, so.
Yeah, we haven't seen them go up, and, you know, of course, with COVID, it was one of those, I had to rip off the Band-Aid once I put them all together, because we didn't have any, the state testing, that was done more of like a benchmark in the fall, which we looked at, but it wasn't the full test, so we just took the test in the spring, so we don't have the full results on that. So, and we didn't take it last spring, so it'll be based on 2 springs ago. So,
Can I ask a question? Do all students have to take this test?
this is all students, K through 5.
No one can be exempted from it.
No, usually not. This is not the state testing. I mean, it depends. I mean, it could be part of an IEP that they don't take. If there are different reasons, they could be exempt from it, but we usually don't. It's a kind of formative assessment, so.
Yeah. One of the things that we used the NEWE testing from is that it actually breaks things down, especially in math, because I did Title I math for a couple of years. So kids need help in this particular area, that particular, so you can actually revamp your class teaching to hit those areas. So, I mean, I found it an absolutely wonderful tool.
This is just one report. There are so many growth reports. You can look at it in different ways. You can look at, how they're doing, like if it's math, it breaks it down, geometry, so forth and so on, all the concepts. And there's also a learning continuum teachers can use to see where kids, it'll show what actual concepts and standards the kids have mastered and where they need to go, individually and as a whole class. So teachers use that to form their instruction as well. And the Dreambox does that kind of on a continual basis. What's good about this test is that if a child is taking it in their 3rd grade, and they'll start with a 3rd grade level test, if it is too difficult for them, it'll start giving them lower level tests, so it'll really test and see where they're at. If it's higher, it'll go higher. And that's what's happening with our Dreambox math program. The kids do it like 3 to 5 times a week, and it tracks each kid individually and gives them lessons, and it gives out reports to the teachers of what skills they've mastered and where they're going, and how many times a week they use it, so forth and so on. So we've got some good reporting and good data that we've been using to form the instruction. And it's showing. I mean, I'm not like, wow, these are gangbusters, great scores, but we did not lose a lot during COVID, so this is what this is about. Any other questions from the board?
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Now, Jan, you doing the secondary update, is that you? SO3, page 77 and 78?
Yeah.
Okay, you have the floor.
Well, I think I'm just 78, I don't.
77 is SO3.
Oh, do I not have that here? I think I have it memorized. So the ESSER3 was just the update to your questions regarding, whether or not we can accept the funds based on the stipulation. So, the government wrote back, and number 1 basically covers it, and then they gave other answers as to what else would cover it too. But as long as our total students in Milton School District doesn't reach 1,000 students, but by the time the grant is over, we're good.
Hey,
Question, is that the 1.2 million?
That is the 1.2 million, yeah.
So we got our questions answered. So
Yes.
the money is being held in escrow.
We can, yes.
Now,
We get 700,000 until we do the next steps, which is the survey and reopening plan, and then we get the rest allocated to us, but not until we do all the things.
that's page 17.
That's 78, yes.
Everything, anybody else for? No. Now we clear what we can use this money for? Say, explain to everybody again what we can use it for.
You can use the funding for almost anything. So the only thing you can't do is to plant the budget, any federal funding, you can't take something out of the budget and spend it on that, but you can use it to, help the budget, like help the funding or help alleviate costs due to COVID and the COVID pandemic. So anything, even buying some curriculum stuff, not because it would supplement the budget, but to say we needed to help lower the gap and that type of stuff. So there's a wide range of things you can get. You just have to be able to prove that it was COVID related, or that it is what the stakeholders, so, not just the school board or the schools, but the parents, whoever feels that it needs to be spent on.
So we can use this money to do the siding on the Damon House?
So only if you have.
Because we already earmarked that money.
Yep.
Yeah, if you already earmarked the money, you cannot.
Too late.
You've already written it in somewhere.
Yeah, must see. Okay, any other questions for her?
But the only other question for me is, the survey that I attached, do we want to ask any additional questions? Do you like these questions? Do you want me to read all the questions in case other people want to add more?
I have no problem with it, I don't want anybody else.
To be clear, Jim. Just note.
No choice, would you rather just wear a mask all day or not all day? Oh, so it should say all day or not all day.
Well, they're gonna put out, wanna read the survey to the people so they can hear it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the disclaimer at the top of the survey would say the following questions and survey is asking for preferences. The CDC guidelines would dictate many of our decisions. So it's just kind of making sure that we give that disclaimer that we want everyone's opinion, but we also have to make sure safety is first. So the first question is, do you have a child at NES, new middle school or new high school? Just because I feel like the age difference would make a difference. Number two, if you had the choice, would you rather your student wear their mask all day or not all day? So the choices would be all day or not all day. If remote was suddenly required, would you have the necessary equipment, yes or no? And then I would like masks to be worn and check all that apply. In the hallways, in the classrooms while walking around, recess, while seated behind shields, while seated at desks with no shields. And then number five, should visitors and volunteers be allowed in the school with masks on, yes or no?
So number two wouldn't be yes or no?
No, it would be all day or not all day.
Okay.
Yep. Yes.
You don't have an option of not.
Well, you wouldn't check anything. So I'd like my mask to be worn, check all that applies, so you wouldn't check anything.
We should have a spot. I choose not to. If the question, they want to say no.
And they're checking, they don't care about it.
Excuse me. So just for clarification, this ESSER obviously is related to COVID.
Yes.
So all these questions that are gonna be going out surveying parents, yes, all the parents.
Yes.
And it's all COVID related, because we're still in this pandemic, correct?
Correct.
Are we still in this pandemic?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
We are.
Yes.
I just think you need to really look at what is going on here. So only way you get this funding is because of how we answer questions to the COVID pandemic. Correct. Just want to make that
So
clear.
the survey is our choice on how to get stakeholder input. There's various ways you can ask for stakeholder input. So for me, I said the survey would be best because that's how we can reach more people. We can make sure that if people can't attend meetings or can't, necessarily call in, that they have the option, and so that the information is given out. So it's not just the survey, but it's anyone who has an opinion
Right, and I
on.
appreciate you reaching out to the parents. It's not, but the point is that the reason for getting this grant money is based on COVID issues. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All set, anybody else? Go ahead.
I wonder, do you need to clarify the question about being out the necessary resources at home? I know that when remote happened, there was this distribution of Chromebooks and all that jazz, and as a parent, I'm not sure what is happening this fall, so I wonder if other parents might not be clear about that either.
So we're going one-to-one, so if I added, with understanding that every student will be given a device, would you then have the necessary equipment?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Okay, yes?
I do want to just say that last year, even though we were one-to-one with Chromebooks, I asked numerous times for a Chromebook for one of my children, who didn't have one, and I was denied numerous times.
And we do apologize for that. We didn't get our computers, unfortunately, until April. We now have them all, and we actually have extra just to be sure that if anyone moves in, we have them covered now. So you should be all set. But that was an unfortunate issue that we just didn't get them in a timely manner.
Well, unfortunate because my child struggled to get the things done that needed to be done.
I understand. I'm sorry.
All set?
Any other questions?
Thank you. Okay, moving on to 5A. The only reason I put that on, it was just for information for the board, and what's the sad thing is, CDC, recommends one thing, and the American Pediatric Association recommends something else. I don't know what the answer is about wearing and not wearing masks. As of today, I think at 3:00, we had an email to the board from the New Hampshire School Board Association was gonna say what the latest CDC guidelines are. So all that was an FYI.
Can you add on that question here, if you want it to be up to the parent? Could you add that question? Do you want the choice yourself of whether, you know, it should be, in other words, up to each parent? If they want to.
Individualized, you mean?
Excuse me?
Individualized rather than the universal.
Yeah.
But the sad thing is,
And if the staff wants to, it's like,
well, I think they're gonna have to go by the CDC guidelines, that's the bottom line. That's the disclaimer at the top of the document.
He has given no.
I'm not arguing that with you, okay? I'm just saying the CDC has the bottom line to make the determination.
No credibility whatsoever.
I'm not arguing that with you.
And our own director of infectious diseases here in New Hampshire has not made that recommendation. New Hampshire has had no children die. The CDC has said 382 kids total have died. We have 400 kids each year die in this country playing school sports. Are we proposing that we're gonna cancel school sports?
I'm not arguing that with you, sir. Okay? I'm just saying you what's on the document.
Can I ask what the CDC is suggesting at this point?
It was supposed to be on at 3:00 and I didn't see it.
so it's a recommendation, but.
I don't know what they're gonna say.
No, I mean,
It's not a mandate. It's not a mandate. They will.
I have no idea what it's gonna say.
And recommendation.
Yes,
So is the only, your only choice is by what the CDC says or as a guideline? Is that what you're following?
what does it say at the top?
So that's the disclaimer that we wrote, so certainly one that can be changed, but I said.
We're gonna find out if it's true or not, because I was in the impression.
Many of our decisions, so that's up, yeah. And so my follow-up on that then is, do you guys know who is part of the CDC, or where the funding comes for the CDC? Or, how many patents they're involved in, submitting for the COVID-19 and the vaccine? Do you know who these people are that are running this organization, that are controlling $1 million grant that you're so willing to take? I suggest you look further into who and what the CDC is.
Well, I want to clarify, Jen, can you help me if I'm wrong? The only thing the grant's requiring is we ask people what they think. The grant is not actually requiring us
Not dependent
to
on the
ask or do
answers
anything.
to the survey.
It's literally
or our
just-
policies.
Yeah, the answers to that and the CDC has nothing to do with the
I
grant.
understand, but for your guidelines and what you're going to do in the fall, is it only under what the CDC?
That's not related.
That's a board decision, that is not related to this, I just added that, I'm asking, but that's what I'm asking, because 5A says CDC new mask guidelines. Are you only following CDC guidelines, or are you using other sources as a guideline for what to do for the fall?
We haven't gotten that far yet.
No, they haven't got that far.
Historically, we've used the CDC guidelines. I mean, I think that's, right?
I think, if I'd be allowed, we actually had a meeting where we wanted to even return to school, where we had to listen to what the parents had to say. We were yelled at by some of the parents because we had wanted, to put precautions in, and they didn't even want us to return to school. So I think as a board, we listen to what the parents have to say. It's not just the CDC, it's not just the parents, it's trying to take everybody's information and trying to balance it for the safety of everybody. I don't know what the right answer is, I don't think any of us do, but I think we have taken the time to really listen to everybody and try to come up with the best solution. We don't know. We're trying to make the decisions that prevent anything without overstepping at the same time. So it's a matter of a whole bunch of different policies, at least for me and some of my fellow board members have made those decisions based on all the information.
I'm sorry, really quickly, I'm curious why the kids are in summer school with no masks, but we're talking about putting masks back on in the fall. That seems, even my child said it, that doesn't make any sense.
At the time when we made that decision, we didn't have Delta. So that was our vote. I had to see what was gonna happen. And then, and also we were concerned about the temperature, which worked in our favor, because it wasn't hot. So we voted not to wear a mask. Now, the other thing that's come into it is Delta, okay? Now, the other thing that's come into it is another one called Colombian. You get the,
Can I just say, if all those things are coming in and it's such a pressing matter, why aren't we making the kids wear masks right now in summer?
nobody in school right now.
Summer school.
School over with?
Summer school.
No, it's not over, I thought.
Our numbers are low enough that it's even less than we had for high school. So the vote was made based on the CDC guidelines at the time. So we're staying with that because our numbers are, we are able to socially distance enough, we take the kids outside. The numbers are much lower, so we get the distancing in, so we haven't changed anything yet.
And we didn't want to make a decision for September, not knowing what the summer was going to hold. If there was a huge uptick because of not wearing masks, that would have influenced our decision. So we couldn't make a decision until we had at least a couple of months to figure out what was going on and see what was going to happen. So I think rather than rush into a decision, we took one step at a time.
At this point, I'm not ready to make a decision.
No.
Are we gonna wait until the last minute to make a decision, or are parents gonna have a sufficient amount of time to decide what they wanna do as?
I'm gonna put it on the agenda each time. I'm gonna see see if there is an uptick in New Hampshire. There isn't an uptick in New Hampshire, which I'm thankful for.
No, there is, I mean, I have to be very honest, I check every single morning. And as of this morning, it was, what, an 81% increase, because they do, that website does, new cases over a 7-day period. And there were 100 and something new cases in New Hampshire for yesterday.
That I understood, but I looked at the figures and it said, I think California increased it, and I think it's a certain number for 100,000 people, and then they mandated, that everybody in California wear masks. We're not at that point yet, okay? And I'm reading something every day and every night. I mean, I understand what Peg is saying.
And I will tell you personally that I am very hopeful that we don't have to force them to wear masks. Okay? That's my personal choice, but again, I don't know what's going to happen from now until September.
Same thing.
My hope is that we don't have to.
Okay?
Nancy?
Moving on. 5C, the new principal, I'm gonna say it's still open till the end of July. Yeah, I think we've got 4 candidates, Jared?
It's 3.
Oh, 3? Okay, all right.
One has no experience.
Oh,
One I talked to in declined the interview, or to proceed forward because, they would actually be losing money coming here. And then we have an in-house.
okay. All set? Now, were we gonna discuss, new assistant principal in non-public?
Yeah, we moved that. I don't know why it didn't get processed.
Oh, it didn't get moved because it didn't get rewritten. Now, who had staffing?
That's just an update, and Jen can probably speak to it better, but just to let you know, we're still, I kind of alluded to it in my notes, we're kind of shy, in applicants for a couple positions. Do you want to just briefly give an overview? This is, that does not have that issue right now, so he's kind of living large. Jen's in a different place.
I'm in a sad place. So I've had 20 staff members out of 30 resign. I have been able to hire 10. I'm still short 10, and I have 1 applicant for all 10 positions. I have 0 for the world language position, but we have a plan, so the hope is to kind of work for that, towards that plan, maybe in non-public, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the reason that we're losing these people, okay, and now you can't blame anybody for looking for a job if they don't think they're gonna have a job in a year or in 2 years because of the exploratory committee. That's gotta be the underlying factor. That's why you're losing a lot of good people.
Yeah, so is it the town or the exploratory committee?
Oh, it's not because of what you're doing. You're not causing, everybody's afraid that the people are gonna vote to close the school. Okay, that's the bottom line. That's why they're leaving.
So the town voted.
No, to do the study.
To do the study.
Yeah, I'm not blaming the exploratory committee's doing a good job, okay? But if the people say close it, you're gonna send out the middle school and the high school, where are all these people gonna be? They're not gonna have a job. It's not being pointed at anybody.
I have a question about those open positions. Are those for like all grades? Like K-12 or?
No, this is just the middle high school, only the middle high school.
And are there any open for like the middle school as well?
It's all middle high school.
Oh.
Yes, all middle high school.
Okay, I put the lady in the back now, come on.
Can I just make a comment, though? I think it's unfair to categorically say that teachers are leaving because of the exploratory committee, only because I have experience with two other schools, the one that I teach at, and the one that my husband teaches at, and we are both of our schools are currently looking for teachers. It's simply the nature of the beast, and so I feel like to categorically say that an entire group of people is solely on one thing. They're not having an exploratory committee at either one of the schools that I'm associated with, and there are still teachers leaving.
Well, thank you for your opinion, but I have my opinion, and, okay, go ahead.
Can I ask how many teachers retired this year?
3.
3. And are you counting that in that?
So that's 3 out of the 20, yes.
So are we gonna revamp the courses we offer to eliminate maybe not the ones that are as important as main classes that helps to avoid the non-headed teachers? So you mentioned
I'm gonna-
foreign language class, is that something that's a priority to have currently when we're down to make teachers?
You can't be a high school without offering a foreign language. I have emailed every college in Maine and New Hampshire, and they have emailed out to their alumni all of our openings, so hopefully we'll see something different in the next week. So we're being proactive at least to get people here.
Thank you for that.
Okay, I guess we already discussed the ESSER funds, is that all set?
Actually, no, Mr. Chairman. I put that on there because I would like approval to explore using ESSER funds to supplant, the wages and salary of our school staff, namely, custodial, paras, secretaries. Much like we did for the custodians previous to this.
Can,
Can we?
but it would have to be with the understanding that, on, we get the grant money for 2 years.
2 years, but I would say
1 year at a time. Look at it for just
Right.
1 year, I would say.
My thinking is that hand in hand with the retention committee work and how fast that moves or how slowly it moves, depending, it would definitely be a Band-Aid approach, but I think a warranted one. It would be a short-term, as is the grant, it would be a short-term solution. But we could find solutions through time to remedy that as well.
Well, there's no reason, well, I was gonna wait till we got down to that number 7, which would be committee reports. Did they qualify? Well, we did meet. We're gonna meet again, not this Thursday, but next Thursday. We did the preliminary work for, secretaries and, custodians. Okay? Next was gonna be paras. There's no reason, like, we couldn't look at those figures and possibly use them under the ESSER grant.
That's what I'm proposing, at least to look at it. Nate and I have looked at, in broad numbers, what that would look like. And it's gonna be under 100,000 to cover all those employees, for the year. Out of a grant of 1.2 million, that's not overly substantial.
I'd like to point out that we're paying more than that in our contracted services for custodial staff, because we can't hire them, so this is
hire them.
We're paying over $100,000?
I think it's over a year's time it takes that much, so, like $3,000 a week or something. But yeah,
I
it's a
don't
lot
have,
of money.
I don't have what you're speaking of, I don't have it in front of me, but you're close, yeah.
See, if you ride to Rochester, I mean, you see the sign on at the high school, they're looking for janitors. So I'm sure they pay a lot better than we do, and they can't even get them either. And I talked to Tim Eldridge today, and we've dropped our bus route from 4 down to 3, and he can't still get bus drivers. That's not only a state issue, it's a national issue. I'm sorry?
Can we use the money to sign on bonuses to get employees,
I don't know.
entice them a little bit?
I don't know the answer to that.
My only concern with that is that what happens to people who've been vindicated.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I'm still doing it right now. I've been there for 17 years, I don't get a bonus for working on the COVID. People that are getting hired now are getting 10 hours.
You get a referral bonus? Like,
The HCA's come in and they have reintroduced that like in the last couple of months.
because that's something we had talked about once.
But it's not a very big amount of money, you don't get, I think after 6 months, it's up to $500. So up to, I don't know what that.
But the retention grant, I mean, the retention committee's goal is to adjust not only the new people that are coming in, but for the old people that are there now. So if you bring somebody, say you start somebody at $14, okay, everybody gets the increase, even the person at the top. So it'd be even and fair. 'Cause I don't just think the new person should get the highest pay and not reward the people that's been here the longest. I don't believe in that. That's been Peg and I's goal. And then once we come to the committee, we'll discuss that with the committee.
I like Jerry's idea, but I also like it 1 year at a time. I don't think we should be committed anything beyond that, because every year is different, and who knows what's gonna happen, but I like the 1 year.
So you,
Just to clarify, you just asked if you could look into it, right? You didn't-
Sorry.
Just to clarify, you said permission to look into it. Or-
Yeah, I can bring you hard.
Yeah, you're not asking for, so,
Yeah, I mean, I can bring you hard figures at the next meeting, we just didn't tease them all out. The problem with looking at that for the paras is, we have some seniority issues that we don't know the answers to, and Cass is on vacation. So, we're kind of stuck there, but I can bring you back some solid numbers. But again, it's gonna be a little less from what we calculated than 100,000.
but the other question that was coming, and then Mr. Quaz sitting back there, and the reason I'm asking, we got 5 for the paras, we have 5 categories. Maybe somehow we can drop it down to 3. What, say it again?
One category would be my preference.
Well, we need your input.
That's it.
That was easy.
Okay, well, no, I think, because we have all those categories, they're confusing.
The duties are so fluid that it's not really fair to have both categories.
That's what we need to hear.
Can we have you come next Thursday?
Because we're gonna be working on paras.
Yeah, no, we have to, I mean, we started, but then it's like, what do these ladies do? What do these people do? What? So, would
We-
love to have your
Be 6
input.
o'clock next Thursday here at the CAF.
You get to bring dinner.
Pizza.
Pizza.
So that's what we're trying to do, we're trying to,
Thanks, Rob.
maybe it is achievable, okay? We wanna do it.
It was kind of based on what the town put forward last year for all of their employees, just let's come up with something so that, you know, if I'm a fireman 1, whatever that might be, and this is my 2nd year, you know, this is what I really should be making. But then if I get to be a fire person 2, I guess I'd be a fire person, not a fireman, wouldn't I? Fire lady, firewoman. Then I start with year 1, but on that particular scale. So, I mean, theirs was a lot more complicated, especially with the police and the fire department. There's so many different categories and things that they could go for. So So ours is a lot easier, but it's, I don't know. It kind of guarantees people in town, a job, and yeah, you are gonna get a little bit of a raise. Not a lot, but you are gonna get a little bit of a raise every year.
But if you started at 1203 as custodian and you went up to
Yeah.
14, that's a substantial.
The starting custodial was
Is
what,
11?
$11-something an hour. And you wonder why we can't get anybody?
Taco Bell starting at $13 an hour.
Yeah.
You see, when Peg and I looked at that, we talked amongst the stuff and we said, what's possibly coming down the road, and the present administration is advocating raising the minimum wage to 15. So what Peg and I were trying to do is to get that raised up high, say if it did happen down the road in the next couple of years, we'd be that farther ahead. So we wouldn't get the punch, or you wanna say, all at once to the taxpayers.
All right, next.
So, do I have,
So to answer your question,
yeah, what's the answer to the question?
go ahead and look into it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
That says what numbers?
Because Peg and I are gonna work with law on the paras.
All right, next.
Good.
Yeah, put on. Okay, that's well, okay, I put this one on, meetings to be held at the town hall. But the thing is, a suggestion came up, okay, and the suggestion is that, we put our own equipment in the cafeteria. Do that for under $20,000. And, what would be a good thing like that, when the budget season came, we would be able to televise our, budget sessions here at the CAF, and that way then that would open up 2 Wednesdays for the town hall. So I don't know what the board wants to do. They want to proceed with that, or they want to go to the town hall. I don't know what you want to do. And they said, if we do it, we can have it done by the end of August. They're getting the estimates.
You wanna spend $20,000?
Under $20,000.
I don't
You
think
spend $20,000.
10, I'm sorry, under 10, I apologize.
We still want to spend $10,000 for us to continue to have meetings here
Yeah, I'm sorry.
when we can just go to the town hall. Right.
But the problem we have with that is, the only 2 days we can get in there is the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of the month. When we do our budget season, we can televise it from here. But also, we can use that facility to promote, school issues and use it on site. And we can take the money out of can we take it out of the ESSER grant? Okay, so it wouldn't be a factor in the tax rate.
It's a waste.
I just want to say, the number of people who are here tonight, I'm assuming you're all comfortable. You're spread out. If you go to a meeting at town hall, I mean, we do the budget committee there, and I feel claustrophobic at the town hall, and, I mean, I sit as far away from everybody as I possibly can, and, then looking at the screen, and I don't know, I mean, I feel a lot more comfortable here, and I'm assuming, we get more people in here. You cannot get this many people
like I would
in
rather spend
town hall.
dollars on children.
Wait a minute, you can speak, but let Peg finish, please, okay? Because I can't listen to 2 people at once. Go ahead, Peg.
Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I would say it's more comfortable here for a bigger group of people. That's all I have to say.
And next.
Ms. Laura, or?
Who is it? Spoke, I didn't hear him.
What?
Somebody spoke?
I said I'd rather spend $10,000 on students.
Is it equipment that could be utilized by the students?
Yes.
Yes,
Everybody.
yes. It'll be school equipment,
School used.
so that something can be happening in here and it can be sent to the classrooms. I mean, it's more than just for school board meetings, if that answers, and yes, it can be used.
So like, for example, if the school wanted to have a YouTube channel, that's the only thing I can think of, right? You know what I'm saying? They could create one,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could have a journalism class, which we don't
You have
have.
an iPad, my kids have an iPad. I don't know, maybe I'm not qualified to have this conversation. I think that's a lot of money to have.
I mean,
Laura was,
Just, we had that in Fremont, but it was the local cable company, I believe they probably had this, they came in and set something up at the town hall. So they have a direct line to the local, the television station, that's free. So they would have that here as well, so students could do broadcasting and so forth through that channel as well. So they would give us, I don't know what the contract is, but there would be opportunities for students to use and broadcast stuff on the channel as well. So it could be used for students.
Is that visible to people who have cable TV?
Yes.
And people who don't have cable TV, not visible to them?
I don't know if the local.
No, I did that at the Epping Town Hall, and it just goes on the cable channel for the town. That's it, if you don't have cable.
I think a lot of people don't have.
I was gonna say, people will have cable.
let me,
If you have a local, I mean, you might have streaming service, but if you have something like Slinger, they do have some local things with that. Like, I don't have cable television anymore, but I have internet and I have a local station stream through Spectrum. It's an app.
Larry?
I mean, that's what we did, that was several years ago.
When the world was young, Tim Crimmins, who worked for MetroCast, used to come and do our annual meeting in March. This would also permit the school cafeteria to serve for the annual meeting, candidates night, and be a community-wide forum that could be used for other public issues.
Laura?
Yeah, my opinion is that I think that the school, it seems very separated from the town to begin with. And I think that to show a united front, that the school board is working with the other department heads of the town and everybody else, the town hall is good for them, should be good for our school board as well. And that's my opinion.
Well, I know what you're saying, but if you notice, when we have elections, where do we hold the elections?
But elections are a different story.
We can hold it downstairs at the town hall, we used to. We used to go to the church, then they finally ended up over here. Doesn't matter, block the proposal up, don't have to do it if you don't want to. But we're gonna have to make a decision. Are we gonna go to the town hall and start in August? Cause I gotta let them know.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, I guess I was not following along. So if you go to the town hall, it's gonna have X amount of money?
No,
no.
Free, cost nothing.
Okay.
But we were
But
limited to
it's
two
just
meetings.
what stays there. Okay, I was thinking.
I know.
Because you guys are talking about 20,000.
I made a mistake, it's 10.
Under 10.
But under 10, do they pay anything down here? Like, is anything charged for the school board to come here? But
No.
they charge 10,000 there?
No.
No.
So it's a.
We're talking about equipment installed here,
Getting equipment in.
right, for under $10,000, which would broadcast school board meetings and can be used for the classrooms by the student, and we would not, so it's a plus, rather than us going to the town hall
Which
for
is
our
much
meetings.
smaller, but already has it.
Right, they already have all of the equipment, yep,
I just was not
okay.
following.
That's a good comment, but if we end up sending students out, and we use the equipment.
You still have a school board.
Right, so it'd only be good for the school board, not for the.
Oh, I see. We could move that equipment to the elementary school.
But for me personally, we're speaking theoretically, it could be used for the students. I would want to see how it actually is going to benefit students, because the things we're saying, my kids do at home with cheap tablets.
Right.
I'm not a tech wizard, but, so, I'm just one person, but that's a lot of money. So we have a place we can.
I mean, I can give you a quick example. If we have that equipment here, we pull that screen down, which is 12 by 12 or 14 by 14, you can have an entire class in here. As a stupid example, it's the only one I can come up with right now. NASA does a virtual visiting astronaut, where you can have an astronaut, a space shuttle astronaut, will talk to your kids and answer questions. And I promise you, the first question is about toilets, because it always is. But that's one of those things you can do. You could have some virtual field trips, where you take the whole class to the Louvre in Paris and never have to leave this room.
So do we have no technologies in our classrooms that can do that now?
We probably could put it on a TV like that.
Don't we have screens in our classrooms? We do it at MES. And I mean, I'm old school, but I have a screen that's on a metal post that my kids can watch a movie on too. Just saying. I'm not a tech person, so maybe I'm the wrong person, but I feel like we can already do those things.
Okay, if we're not gonna do it, we gotta make a decision, are we gonna, the town hall wants to know if we're gonna go back to the town hall.
So are we voting?
Well, whatever you wanna do.
You're gonna require a motion.
I'm sorry?
You're gonna need a motion, then make a vote.
Make a motion, what do you make a motion?
Something really important. All right, then you know what? I will make a motion that we go forward with this recording technical equipment
For under 10,000?
for under 10,000.
I'll second it. Do we have any discussion? Peg?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
No. No.
Guess we proceed then, thank you. So, we're gonna meet here for the, because it won't be put in until probably the end of August. So, let's continue to meet here so we can notify our selectman representative that we won't be going to the town hall.
Yes.
So we're gonna stay here
Yes.
for the next permanent.
Yes.
Don't have to, we already got somebody. Don't have to do it. As a matter of fact, by doing this with him, it's easier for him, because he can run the whole thing from his house. You don't even have to come in here. But Zoom, this will be our last Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
So, we'll be meeting here, from now on. Claudia, so you realize we won't be coming to the town hall. We thank you very much for all your years of service. Thank you very much. Okay? I didn't hear what she said.
She said, okay.
Oh, I didn't hear it. The hearing aid's turned down.
Next.
Correspondence.
194C.
Okay, I is all done with, because you already read that, you got taken care of. That was 92 to 95 was our exploratory committee that told us that letters were sent out. We did invite people to come to Milton to tuition their kids, and that was right, wasn't it?
Okay.
You sent out letters to these schools asking them to tuition their kids here.
No.
Yes, Earl did.
Yeah, how many do we have? 5, 4?
Right down to
5, okay, and then nobody opted.
You can ask Earl, but our feedback was nobody said that they wanted to send it.
I think the only one answered, I think it was Rochester, and they said no. I didn't know if you knew something I didn't know.
No, absolutely.
Okay, because these letters are all us sending our kids there.
No, we sent a letter out.
No, I know, but the letters that we have in our packets are all from the committee to everybody, so,
We didn't get copies of them.
okay.
All set? Do we have any old business? Committee, board member reports, we did the pay retention.
Yeah.
Peg, you have anything?
Not really, we did not meet in July for the budget committee. Our next meeting will not be until August, so.
August, budget committee?
Policies meeting August 4th at 5:30.
right? Pardon?
Rec and everything else.
Well, Rec's not meeting.
Really?
No, they haven't, they're not meeting
How many?
at this point. Now, I called the CIP, like I said before, and what's happening, that they haven't firmed that date up yet either.
Next on the list.
And facilities will be the last Wednesday, the fourth Wednesday. So we're gonna be continuing to meet in the second school board meeting of the month, at the fourth Wednesday, correct?
Yes, yes. Okay, that's it. The motion to, do I have any public comments? Larry?
As I remember reading the cooperative agreement between Barrington and Dover, it has a save harmless clause for students who need to go beyond the length of the contract as written to finish their high school studies. And I'm sure that that same pattern will exist in anything you'll need to finish up a course here.
That's it? Okay, I need a motion to go into non-public.
Make a motion to go into non-public?
I will second that.
Okay, that'll be under RSA 91A, 32A, B, C, D, E, I, K, and L. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Peg?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay. All right, people, you can go home. Thank you very much.
No, we have to make a motion. I think,
I second.
Tammy, make up your mind, whichever one you want to put down first.
Okay, Peg?
Aye.
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 Aye. Smack you.
Thank you for making it an interesting